Hey guys, it's Heather from Psychology of Superheroes. It's been a while since I did episode 1 over Miles Morales. I had a lot of different things going on the month of January, but now you should expect these podcasts weekly. Today we're going to be talking about Kamala Khan, or Ms. Marvel. This topic, or this character, was recommended by Tumblr user Not Made of Bees, so thank you, Not Made of Bees. I had not read about Ms. Marvel before this recommendation, so I read Ms. Marvel from 2014, and this is her first appearance. This is her origin story, and I super love this character, so thank you again for recommending her. So I'm going to jump right in. I'm only going to be talking about Ms. Marvel 2014. So this storyline ended, and then she got her other title that's currently going on right now that was renewed or whatever, but I'm talking about just this one storyline. It's her first appearance. Issue 1, we meet Kamala Khan. She's 16, Muslim, and living in New Jersey. And first of all, the cool thing about this character and why I love her so much is that she's incredibly relatable. Issue 1, she's making Star Wars references, so I'm already in love with her. She has two best friends. You have one who's a more conservative Muslim than Kamala is, and someone who's not even Muslim, but they're both really close to her, and so like her friendships are, diverse. She writes Avengers fanfic. She plays quote unquote World of Battlecraft. She's your normal 16-year-old girl. She's worrying about her best friends, about her parents being mad at her. She worries about not fitting in. And she even walks by, I incredibly related to this. She walks by the comic store, and the owner or someone who works there is like, "Are you here for the latest issue of Magical Pony Adventures?" And she has to kind of be like, "Don't talk to me about my shame." But that's incredibly relatable to me. She talks in memes, for God's sake. She's hilarious. Wears Captain America apparel. So she's a superhero, or she becomes a superhero, spoiler, who already loves superheroes. So she's in this Marvel universe, and she loves the Avengers. She knows about them. She's writing fanfic about them. She's wearing their merchandise, and she finally becomes one. And her favorite at this point is Captain Marvel. And already, she's very relatable just as a teenager or as a human being, but her storyline deals a lot with very real concepts such as microaggressions. And I'm reading a quote here from Daryl Wing Sue. He's kind of a very prominent social psychology who talks a lot about topics of culture, racism, social psychology stuff. So I'll post a link from where I'm getting this from. But the quote is, "Microaggressions are the everyday verbal, nonverbal, and environmental slights, snubs, or insults, whether intentional or unintentional, which communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative messages to target persons based solely upon their marginalized group membership." Okay, so let me break this down for you. Microaggressions are not overt aggression. They're not overt verbal comments like, "Oh, I hate black people." It's not like that. It's not overt. It's subtle, and it can almost fly under the radar. But these comments, whether you're meaning to be a jerk or not, they hurt people's feelings, basically. And it's more than hurting people's feelings. It's causing them to feel less validated about their existence just because they happen to belong to a certain group. So like with Kamala, she has this classmate who's white who asks her a lot of questions, but they're kind of ridiculous questions that you wouldn't ask just like another white person. Like if she's allowed to go out of the house, or I can't believe you're allowed to talk to certain people, like really misunderstood, ignorant assumptions about people who are Muslim. So Kamala deals with these kind of microaggressions right from the very beginning of the storyline, right from issue 1. To a certain extent, her religion does affect her lifestyle. For example, her parents don't let her go to parties with boys or with alcohol. Not that a 16-year-old needs to be hanging out at a party with alcohol, no matter what her religion is. But these microaggressions, when these other students kind of they use her religion to pick on her or make her feel more badly about her parents' rules. So she feels left out. She feels very isolated. So when her parents say, you're not allowed to go to these parties that the the other classmates are going to, these other high schoolers, because there's boys and we know there's going to be alcohol, Kamala sneaks out anyways. Which, I mean, how many students are doing this anywho, and they're not even Muslim? But she sneaks out of the house and she goes to this party, but she ends up leaving the party because she still feels like an outcast. So like she feels isolated because she can't go hang out with these other kids at this party because of her parents' rules. But then she gets there and is with them at this party, but they're still treating her like an outsider. So she says, I can never be one of them, no matter how hard I try. I'll always be poor Kamala with the weird food rules and the crazy family. So she feels very, very isolated, and this is a theme throughout this particular storyline. But in issue 1, on the way home, a very mysterious mist gives her shape-shifting powers, and that's the first issue. And the next issue, she actually uses her very newfound shape-shifting powers, like within the hour of getting them. She saves the student, one of the students, who uses these microaggressions against her. Kamala makes like this really impressive, heroic statement. She says, there are always people who rush in to help. And according to my dad, they are blessed. So her dad is, throughout the series, he says things to her that's very much based in his religion. And she hears that and she uses that a lot of time to motivate her heroic behavior. And in this particular instance, she sees the person who kind of makes her feel crappy sometimes about who she is as a person, her religion, her ethnic background. But even though this person does this, she still goes and saves her. And that really brings up this idea of the social idea of altruism. And that's when you help somebody, even when it doesn't benefit you. You're doing it solely for that other person's benefit. And I really believe in this instance, that's what Kamala's doing. She has shapeshifted. She looks like Captain Marvel, because that's her hero. She shapeshifted into Captain Marvel's figure identity, and she saves this other girl. So not only is Kamala not going to get any kind of thanks or credit for saving this girl, but she's also going to have to continue to take this girl's crap. She's not getting anything out of this. Altruism is very much a topic of study in social psychology or positive psychology, and even in the field of behavioral economics. Sometimes it's difficult for some people to believe that anyone acts without some type of benefit. So someone might say, hey, even though Kamala isn't receiving credit, you might even think that she's shooting herself in the foot by saving this person who bullies her or teases her. But Kamala ends up feeling really good about herself. So maybe that feeling is a type of benefit, so maybe it's not really altruism. People get complicated with how they define things, but in my opinion, in altruism, and it's helping people when it doesn't benefit you, which I think Kamala really shows in this series. And she has some like really awesome real talk about being a hero. Some people might say that her monologues are a little corny, but I kind of like it. She saves this girl, her hair's in her face, she's wearing these ill-fitting clothes. She even mentions having a wedgie because of the super suit. And she makes a statement, maybe putting on a costume doesn't make you brave. Maybe it's something else. And it really makes me wonder, like, at this point, and this is just issue 2, what is it that's making you brave, Kamala? What's this other thing? But she sneaks back into the house because remember, she went off to this party. And of course, she gets caught. So not only is she not getting any credit, she's saving the person who's just going to be bullying her tomorrow. But she's also in trouble with her parents. Her rescue then is all over the news, but only credit is given to Captain Marvel. And she kind of gets like, she's going to be a hero now, so she's going to start doing this thing. She transforms into Captain Marvel. She thinks that she's stopping a robbery, but then she's shot, and there's kind of like a cliffhanger there, but it's cool. She has healing powers, which awesome. So not only can Kamala shapeshift, which in and of itself is pretty awesome, but she also has healing powers, very much like Wolverine. Foreshadowing there. Stay with me. Her friend's brother, the one who's not Muslim, gets kidnapped, and she's trying to get herself pumped up. She's gonna go rescue her friend's brother. So she pumps up herself and she says, I've been playing video games and RPGs since I was a little kid. I have the thumbs to prove it. Man, Kamala, again, you were just so relatable, because playing video games and RPGs totally prepares you for heroic work. But she decides to break her grounded rules rule for the greater good. It's a little bit of a conflict for her because she doesn't really want to disobey her parents or make them mad at her, but she's like, it's more important to save my friend's brother if he's been kidnapped. So she goes to where her friend is being held hostage, and there's all these robots are firing at her, and she's yelling, just like a boss fight in World of Battlecraft, just like a boss fight in World of Battlecraft. And so she gets through it, and I'm totally cracking up because I'm like, that wouldn't necessarily mean me because I don't play World of Warcraft, but still, she's pretty relatable and funny. Her first villain that shows up, and remember this is her origin story, her first villain is called the Inventor, who's a parakeet, I guess. We don't find out at this point. We're in the middle of like, what, issue 5? We don't find out that he's a parakeet, but we do later on, and this is totally ridiculous. Kamala, she's really non-confrontational when she's just being Kamala. You know, she gets along with the group. She doesn't want to rock the boat. She doesn't want her parents getting mad at her or her best friends getting mad at her. Non-confrontational. But in The Mask, Kamala starts the smack talk. It's pretty awesome. And this reminded me a lot about cosplay. So with cosplay, people either buy or create their own costumes. Maybe it might be an original character, but very often they're putting on these costumes of some character that they really like or who they admire. So they go from being their normal everyday person and they put on the costume of, say, like a superhero. Doctors Andrea Letamendi and Robin Rosenberg actually wrote an article titled Expressions of Fandom, Findings from a Psychological Survey of Cosplay and Costume Wear. And in this article, they talk about how when people put on a mask, their personalities change a little bit. Sometimes. They wrote, the anonymity that comes with masking may, paradoxically, allow a subset of cosplayers to more feel unmasked and liberated from their everyday appearance, allowing their true inner self to feel more prominent. So let me give you an example here what they're trying to say. Not everybody, but some people, when they cosplay, they feel more freedom. So say I'm a woman who is not very secure in her body. You know what I'm saying? You know, she's not going to show a lot of skin. Maybe I have, just some body issues, or I'm not necessarily going to show a lot of leg or show my tummy, something like that. Okay? So that's who I am normally. But then I put on the Wonder Woman tiara and the outfit, and suddenly I feel more empowered. This is the person that I want to be, my true self. So not only am I more comfortable in my body, but I just feel more empowered overall. So this effect doesn't happen for every cosplayer on the planet. Not everybody puts on Spider-Man's mask and then becomes, this really kind of sarcastic, funny superhero. But for some people, it does work. So based on Kamala's ethnicity or religious situation and her feelings about being isolated and just being already kind of non-confrontational, I would say that this is true for her. So she starts off, first of all, changing into Captain Marvel, who in looks is very not like Kamala. She is one taller, a grown-up, white, blonde. She would fit in with the popular group at her high school. Once she transforms into her, and then she's able to be a hero. So she's putting on this quote-unquote mask by shape-shifting into Captain Marvel, and it helps her become more comfortable with herself and also more heroic. But she stops transforming into Captain Marvel and instead comes up with her own costume, and she becomes Ms. Marvel. And when she puts on this mask, and she's the world doesn't know that it's Kamala. She's able to create this new persona. She becomes more heroic, more powerful, confrontational, just more empowered with herself. And I think a lot of this has to do with putting on the mask. So maybe her parents are, really strict, and they have these religious rules or customs that maybe these other high school students don't. But oh my God, these parents love her so much. I love that part from the comics, because not only do they stress, that they have this religion, but they still stress that these parents love their kids. And even her dad says to her, unknowing that she's a superhero, he says to her, you don't have to be someone else to impress anybody. You are perfect just the way you are. In fact, the dad breaks down her name, and we find out that Kamal, the root of Kamala, means perfection. And so after her dad tells her this, Kamala says, I'm here to be the very best version of Kamala. So not only is she now motivated after having a conversation with her dad to be the very best version of herself, but it's almost like she's saying, I'm here to be the very best version of something that's already amazing. So she's really motivated at this point, and she starts her superhero training sequence. once. And again, she's doing this corny monologuing, but she makes the decision, good is not a thing you are, it's a thing you do. So at this point, Kamala becomes protector of Jersey City. It's not New York City. Everybody else protects New York City. You got like a dozen superheroes protecting New York, but the protector of Jersey City, that's Kamala Khan. That's Ms. Marvel. So even though her dad, has this great conversation with her, he's still worried about her because he doesn't know what she's doing. And so he sends her to go talk to their religious leader, and she kind of sort of tells him that she's helping people. She doesn't spell out, I'm a superhero, but she tells him, yes, I am disobeying my parents, but I'm helping people, and I think that's the greater good. And he doesn't try to talk her out of it, which to his credit is pretty awesome. But instead, he provides some advice instead of that judgment, and he tells her, you need to find a teacher. And later in this issue, she actually meets her hero, the Wolverine, Logan. And she meets him, and she just absolutely fangirls over him, which, like, same. So she's talking with Wolverine, and Wolverine hears her story, and he suggests that maybe she's a mutant. But she actually finds out that she's Inhuman. So the Queen of the Inhumans sends her Lockjaw, whom I'm actually more familiar with from the Fantastic Four. I was kind of surprised when he showed up. But she sends her Lockjaw, who's a giant teleporting bulldog, as a companion, unknown to Kamala. She hasn't met the Queen of the Inhumans yet. But Kamala finds Lockjaw and brings him home. And she just absolutely loves him, like, immediately. Which, again, same. If you want, you can contact me or find more articles, podcasts, and videos on psychologyofsuperheroes.tumblr.com. You can also subscribe to this podcast on iTunes. And if you want to contact me, you can on Twitter at PsychSuperheroes. And please, if you can, check out my Patreon page at www.patreon.com/psychologyofsuperheroes. Thanks, guys. See you in the next episode.